We're streaming. All right. We are streaming.
Awesome.
All right.
What's up, Karl? What are
What
we
is
going to
up?
chat about today?
I don't know. I had no idea what we're going to be chatting about today. All right.
Hopefully, I'm going to get up and run through a wall. That's going to pump me up so much.
I'm going to get on Starbucks and I'm going to order you an espresso and have it sent over to your address. All right. Cool deal. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Motivation Monday Live. I'm Karl Jacobi, and I'm joined by my brother in the trenches, Trevor Neill. Yay! Round of applause. Remember, every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go live on YouTube to set the tone for the week. Not with fluff, not with hype, no dopamine, confetti, or any of that garbage, but with truth, clarity, and a battle plan to attack your week, goals, and your life with purpose. Listen, if you're watching this live, preferably live because we get juiced off of live engagement, engage with us. Drop one word in the chat. What's the mission this week? Is it sales? Is it family? Is it discipline? Maybe getting a little bit more dialed in your health and your finances or anything of that nature. Maybe your relationships. What is one thing in one word that you're dialing in this week to get your life going? Love to see it. This engagement juices us up because we want to make sure we're not just talking to ourselves, right? We want to make sure we're actually talking to the masses. People are juiced off the content because if you get juiced, I get juiced. It just becomes this ever evolving circle. So do us that favor, right? Listen, as I said last week, there is no fee to watching this, right? Clearly not. You're watching us. But my ask that is that if you get impacted by this video or any of the videos that we've done, you got value from it, share it with at least one person or one friend who needs it in their life, right? If you got a chuckle from this, just share it because we all need a chuckle, especially on this Monday. We all need a chuckle in our life right now, right? So, and if you haven't already, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell so that you don't miss any future content, any future episodes, and just any future content. Trevor, dude, as of this recording, man, we're down to just 66 days left of 2025. Thank God it's not 67, right?
I don't even know what that means. I know the kids are saying it, so something I'll have to Google.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure our videos are going to probably rank a little bit for the whole 6-7 thing, whatever that is. But man, dude, so can you believe it, dude? We're actually down to almost 67. Jeez, 66 days left.
6
man.
days. Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, that's the whole 2025 has just flown by, and I feel like 2023 flew by. I mean, this time in general just flies by, and it's not only do we have 66 days left. What were we doing 66 days ago to progress ourselves? Or are we moving the needle forward? And I talked last week about winning your days. Are we winning our days to eventually it would become that book, that sheet of paper that you talked about? Are we working on our sheet of paper to compile this book, our 2025 book, to be, the best version of ourselves moving forward into 2026? So
yeah, absolutely. And Barry, shout out to Barry. He's like, man, I want to focus on the week ahead, right? And so, my man, you're in the right place. You're in the right, you're in the right place, right channel, and you're watching the right two dudes because we are also focused on the week ahead. So, But yeah, no, I agree. In a sense, what you said. What did we do 66 days ago, right? To move our lives forward. So that's a great question. And
And
honestly,
and again, it's not like, oh, the year's almost over. Let me get my shit together. No, we should have had our shit together in February,
mhm,
March,
yeah,
July. If we didn't, that should be kind of a red flag there. But yeah, just a little bit, move the needle, a little bit over
yeah,
day. That's it.
100%. 100%. As I talked about this more in depth in the previous call, right? Of how we want to operate in coming into 2026, right? And we're not going to go over into this in depth, right? I mean, if you want to listen to that, the last two calls, I've been putting a lot of focus into this because it's becoming more and more important that we put focus into our goals. Not now, not on December 31st. I'm sorry, not December 31st, but now, right? But I covered this, in previous two calls. So, let's start operating as that person we want to be by the end of the year right now, right? Not Monday, which is coincidentally today, but if you're watching the replay and it's Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday, or Saturday, whatever that day is, don't wait till Monday. Don't be that Monday guy. I was that guy for a very large part of my life. I know. I did that too. But don't be that dude. Be that person who says, you know what, I'm going to execute today. It could be at 3 o'clock. I don't care. Be that 3 o'clock person. Be the person who makes a decision and executes right now. So, I'm going to be this person today. Right? Right meow in this hour. Right?
I
Yes, I
knew that
said
was
meow.
coming.
Yes, I said meow. And no, I'm not a four-legged cat, drinking milk out of a milk bowl, right? And on that note, coincidentally, if I happen to swan away or whatever, my oldest daughter Naomi, she's home for a couple days, and she brought home her cat. So this cat has no sense of boundaries. So if you see a cat just come somewhere and I happen to swat at something, or if I get scratched, or if I jerk, whatever, it's because of this cat. So I'm telling you, this cat has no boundaries. All right, so back to what we were talking about. I talked about this more in depth in previous calls. And if you want to watch or listen to it, check it out in the replay in the live section of this channel, because this will just kind of piggyback off that, right? So let's get into today's theme, shall we, Trevor? What do you think?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Awesome. I figured you agree. So today's theme is around leading yourself first. You can't lead your family, your team, your business if you can't lead yourself first, right? Self leadership is about doing what you must or what but must be done, not when you feel like it, but because it's who you are. Setting the example by being the example. What I've learned in my life is that feelings are temporary, right? Standards, they're permanent. And one of the biggest things I learned from one of my mentors, coaches, Ben Newman, is on a very first call, he says this phrase that really just kind of hit me in every role that I live in life. You can only lead to the level of discipline in which you live. I'm going to say this one more time. For those in the back that didn't hear me, you can only lead to the level of discipline in which you live. Right? So instead of trying to worry about how you can lead others more effectively, how can you lead your business more effectively? Maybe it's your church, maybe it's your sports team, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your workplace, or whatever environments that you're trying to feel like, man, I need to figure out how I can lead better, how I can lead more effectively. Well, my friend, if I can just give you this one piece of advice, if you don't get anything out of this call other than this one phrase, and maybe a few chuckles, is this one thing. In order to lead yourself, or in order to lead others more effectively, to lead them, to lead them into the battlefield, you got to be the example. You got to lead yourself first. Focus on how you can be the best version of yourself, leading yourself, showing up even when you don't feel like it, right? Last week we talked about purpose versus motivation, and we jammed for quite a while on that. Well, we're going to piggyback off that because it's really building upon that foundation. Because oftentimes we feel like we can we only want to show up, or we feel like showing up when our feelings do, right? So, you know, as I mentioned, brain kind of went brain stopped braining for a second. But last week we talked about purpose. When motivation fades. Well, this week we're going to dive into what keeps your life consistent, keeps you consistent, leading yourself. When it's inconvenient, right? Now, Trevor, whenever in your life has leading been convenient for you? Just curious.
Oh, geez. Um, I was actually forced in a leadership position in the
Ooh.
army, and this is difficult too. And this not only with the military, but working in 9 to 5 as well. With promotions and all.
Mm-hmm.
I was a specialist in Korea, and I got promoted to sergeant. And when I was a specialist, E4, we all hung around each other, other E4s. And all of a sudden, when I made sergeant, I got thrown in a leadership position. Now I'm supposed to lead my friends who I was hanging around with, drinking and partying and whatnot. And how are they going to perceive me as this new leader? How are they
Mm.
going to perceive me as, you can be a friend and your boss at the same time, but there's
Mm-hmm.
boundaries there. But I was forced into a leadership position. This was 20, oh geez, I want to date myself here. 2011, yeah. But it kind of, you definitely find out about people. And like I said, there's boundaries. And once that promotion happens, whether it be in the military or in the workforce, they'll test you. They'll see what they can get away with. They'll see where your boundaries are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to obviously set those standards, set those boundaries, military or in workplace, and just abide by it. So I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of got off rail a little bit there, but
No, it's all
uh,
good.
I was forced into a leadership position, which I'm glad because it essentially threw me to the wolves. And what better place to learn than being thrown to the wolves?
Mm. Yeah. That's the best place to learn, right? Is being fed into the
Yeah,
wolves. Absolutely.
because you'll fail, you'll adapt. Okay, what can I do better? How can I
Mm-hmm.
handle this situation?
Mm-hmm.
Better, or you know,
Yeah.
overall, you'll get force fed failures essentially, and then how can we pivot from it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you said there, man. If for me, especially for the last 6 years. Gosh, 6 years! Can't believe I'm saying that out loud. I'm a full time entrepreneur, right? And I spend most of my time at home. And for one of the things I learned is leadership starts at the home, at the casa, right?
Hmm.
And within, right? I mean, I opened this up like you can't lead others until you learn to lead yourself, right? You can't lead your business, your team, or children if you can't lead your habits, right? Your emotions, especially emotions, in your time. But I think one of the biggest thing is emotions, and then which follows that are what habits, right? And I hear consistently all the time, that oh man, I just I'm just not that disciplined person. I just not that person who can do that. Or I had a conversation with one of her friends, and told her, she's like, first off, she's like, oh my gosh, because we haven't seen each other in a very long time, and so she's like, oh my gosh, you've lost a lot of weight. I'm like, yes, I'm down over 130 pounds, and done a tremendous amount of different things in my life. I've really have put a
You could
lot of
probably
focus
be the
in.
new Subway guy.
No, no, because I
Oh,
know
I
where
guess
that dude
that's
is now. Yeah,
yeah. I didn't even think about that.
right.
Okay.
But I've lost a lot of weight. I've made a lot of changes in my life.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh man, I just could never be that that disciplined. So no, you could. You just choose
Yeah.
not to,
Hmm.
right? And without even thinking, I said that, and I'm like, oh shoot, this person's
No,
probably
but
thinking
that's
this.
good because people need to hear that, and
Right,
we are
exactly.
are we are our own enemies.
Yep, you're 100%. Yeah, exactly right. And you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. What I was about to say next, right? We need this honesty in our lives. We all choose to do these things. We all choose our actions, and most of them are subconscious. I there is a scientific study which I put into the 5 day challenge. By the way, guys, if you haven't yet checked out my 5 day unstoppable challenge, um, shameless plug here. I'm going to do it, right? But if you have not checked out the 5 day unstoppable challenge, it's a challenge I host, once a month. The link's right here in the screen. It's in the show notes as well. But this is a 5 day live event where you're going to jam with me every single day. Where I walk through the simple 5 step process I guide every single one of my clients through. Clients that pay me a premium rate to guide them through this 5 step process to get them from stuck to become unstoppable. And I know unstoppable sounds rather cliche, but I'm going to give you all the tools in this 5 day period to get you from stuck to unstoppable. Learn how to master your emotions. And this is where I was coming from is emotions dictate over 95% of our actions, right? And most of us aren't even aware of this. Most of us is driven from our subconscious, in just how we show up. 95%. That's a pretty staggering number, right? And that was pretty interesting for me when I learned this. When I was in the military, leadership wasn't about barking orders. And I love how you transition that because, that's an area that we both have in common. But for me, what was the biggest thing I learned that I carried over into, the business life and into entrepreneurship is, leadership wasn't about barking orders. It's all about the consistency aspect, right? Being consistent, showing up where you feel like it or not, being that disciplined leader. Don't tell that soldier, or don't tell that person, hey, make sure your diet's in check. Make sure that you're eating, you're putting food in your face that's healthy to you. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, you're going off to McDonald's or you're going to Crumble Cookie or whatever. And by the way, Crumble Cookie, my youngest daughter, she's like, oh, I could kill for some Crumble Cookie. I'm like, bleh, no, thank you. Ben & Jerry's, on the other hand, that's my crutch. That's my vice. Ben & Jerry's or even apple pie. Guys, I'm no different. Trust me, there are a lot of times I'd much rather be on the couch freaking, eating an apple pie or eating some Ben & Jerry's. My favorite's half-baked, by the way. And no, not because I was half-baked, but because I liked because I like it, right? Hey, I told you there are going to be some chuckles if you're watching this, right? But again, most people think leadership means authority, but leadership, all that really is responsibility. And actually, that's comprises of 2 words, right? It's about looking in a mirror and saying, if my life weren't where I want to be, it's because of me, right? You, Trevor, every one of us have the power and the responsibility. That's one of the things that break out, into the 5 day challenge. A lot of us, one of the biggest things I stress is it's not our fault, right? A lot of us receive this programming because, we're only capable of a certain amount of our potential. However, one of the things I will expose you to is every single one of us is 100 minimum 1 times more capable when we're allowing ourselves to be, right? It's no different than any of us that's watching either live or replay. We're all capable of so much more, but we are where we are, and it's our responsibility to change this for us, for our lives. And in my life, my programming was I would never be successful. Jacobi was just not in our blood, man. Looking back at what my parents, my grandparents, and all the way back as far as I could, because my grandfather was adopted, and the trail kind of ended there. But as I go back, it's like, man, generation after generation after generation. It wasn't their fault. It's the programming they received, right? It wasn't my dad's fault. It wasn't my mother's fault. And that was one thing I wish I could tell her to this day. I love you. I know it's not your fault, but, I get that this is a program you received, program I received, program you received, Trevor, right? I mean, we've all received programming of some type. And programming I'm talking about are adversities, things we've been fed by our loved ones, Loved ones, I'll use that as an umbrella term for like teachers, anybody that's made an impact on our lives. Could be grandparents, could be aunts, uncles, teachers, business partners. Oh my God, business partner, that's a huge one for me, right? So nonetheless, so let me kind of push it all over to you, my man, because I've been taking a lot of this
Uh,
microphone. But let me hear from you, man. What talk to me about you know uh, accountability, right? I mean, we talk about accountability for you and I, right? But talk to me about accountability. What are some like uh, well, let me first dive into this. Standard over feelings. You heard me say it about a few times. I'm sure you've heard it. What are
mhm.
what are your thoughts, or what's your thoughts around this process over feelings or standard over feelings?
Before I get into that, I kind of want to just flip the script and talk a little bit
Uh
more about that
oh, we're
leadership.
flipping the script. Watch out.
I'm punting, okay? And I want your opinion on this as well, and I'll tell you mine. What defines and what makes a good leader? So for me,
Ooh.
not only from a military standpoint, but when I ventured off into entrepreneurship, I started RAOA, then I got my own warehouse. When I was
Mm-hmm.
hiring preppers, I was their boss, and I just wouldn't tell them what to do and just go home. I would be
Mm.
literally in the trenches with the employees, with the soldiers, and whether it be, maintenancing Humvees or prepping boxes. To
Mm-hmm.
me, a good leader is in the trenches with their guys and not just barks orders and sits, in their chair doing. I understand, you have to delegate, but if there's nothing to do, man, it just sets the example. Not only does it
Mm-hmm.
set the example, but those people will respect you and want to come to work for you and
Mm.
with you. So, but that's
Yeah,
that's
no,
my
that.
my what defines a really good leader for me
Mhm.
is, in there with the guys or girls. So,
Yeah, 100%, man. I love how you captured that. I think one of the biggest things that jumps out at me is, good leader versus not a good leader is, what is their mindset? Like, are they a servant type of leader, or are they the type of person who's sitting from the back, cracking a whip? We've all seen that picture, right? Where, you've got your workforce essentially, in front of you, and you're whipping, you're cracking a whip. you know for me, it's by influence, right? You're not going to ask your team anything you're not willing to do, or they know beyond a shadow of doubt, man, Carl's not asking me anything to do because I know he's either done it or he's going to do it because it needs to be done. One of the examples I heard from Mark Cuban just recently,
Carl, you there?
in what's that?
Oh, I lost you there for a minute.
Oh my gosh, don't tell me the freaking
I
internet
lost you for
shut
like
down.
15, 20 seconds.
Oh my gosh. Of course, right? First world problems. I don't even know where did I get cut?
I don't know, but we are having a bad storm here, so that
Oh,
might affect the
gotcha.
internet a little bit.
Well, I just saw things freeze up on my end, so it might have been on my end too. But anyways, first world
Okay.
problems. But I guess one of the things that jumped out at me is about your team knowing is Carl, Trevor, anybody that's watching, are they asking me to do something they're not willing to do, right, themselves,
Mhm.
right? Because they've been in the trenches, they dug, they went through the process, they've gone through the trenches with you, or with me, right? One of the things I heard from Mark Cuban just recently on a talk, I don't remember when this talk was. I think it was from a time ago, but it's still relevant. Is when he first bought the Miami Heat or wherever this team that he owns, just tells you how
Mavericks.
freaking. Or there you go, Mavericks. There you go. See, I'm not a sports guy, guys.
Carl is sports illiterate. Okay.
I know enough what ChatGPT tells me and Google tells me, and of course what Trevor tells me. But when he bought the team, he was in the phone book and in the records calling people asking to buy season tickets. He, the owner, Mark Cuban, And he was being questioned by the host, like, man, you were really doing it? It's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Right? I'm here to do
Mhm.
the work, and I want to set the example. If I'm here to do the work, then other people see me do the work. I'm setting the example, right? Like, why am I going to ask my team to do something if I'm not willing to, to get in the trenches with them and do it, right? And
Mhm.
so for me, that was an interesting perspective of like, man, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, why are you going to ask your team, your family, or anybody for that matter, especially if you're an entrepreneur, founder, we've got to be able to, be able to lead by example and be able to lead, from the front, be that servant leader, and be that type of person that, you're essentially serving your team. What do they need? What kind of guidance they need? What kind of material, supplies? Be that person that feeds your team, the servant leader, not somebody who's just cracking a whip and kicking your feet up, right? And that's a hard lesson I learned early in my entrepreneurial life was, just delegating stuff like, all right, Carl's gonna kick his feet up and ride the high life. You know how long that lasted? Not
Not
very
even
long.
5 minutes.
Probably a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but not much longer, man. It's like it just kind of came to a screeching halt, right? But that's an
Um,
interesting question, man, and you know, and that's an excellent thing to take away from this is don't try to be that perfect leader either. Just
mhm.
be that one person, just to show up authentically, own your stuff, right? If you make a mistake, hey, it's all cool, man. I mean, we're all human, right? Your team acknowledges that you're human, you're going to make mistakes, but just be the one to own it. Be the one to say, you know what, yeah, I apologize, I goofed up on this mistake. Don't try to freaking shift the blame, don't try to blame somebody else, don't try to give some kind of crap excuse, because believe it or not, your team is smarter than you. They're going to see right through you. You can give a lame excuse or try to push yourself out of it, but if you're not willing to own up your responsibility and own your own the mistakes, don't expect your team to.
Yeah.
Don't expect your team to, because if you're not, they're going to see like, oh my gosh, if Carl's not willing to own his mistakes, if Trevor's not willing to own his mistakes, and this, that, and the other, that means I can't own my mistakes. That means I can't, right? So
And I've been on both ends of that stick. I've been on in under great leadership and under shitty leadership as well.
yeah, we both
And
have,
you
my friend.
take you take traits from both. Okay, obviously with the crappy leadership, okay, this is what I'm not going to do. This is what
Hmm.
I'm going to take from that. Strong leadership, okay, these are good tangibles to take. And evidentially, you'll form your own leadership traits that you employ to your team as well.
Hmm.
But in order to be, a good leader, and you talked about this earlier, whether you like it or not, we're leading people, whether it be our children or
Mm.
softball team, whatever it may be. We're a leader to someone, some way, somehow. And in order to be a good leader, you kind of have to be the best, obviously be the best version of yourself and have a fixed self. You have to fix
Mm.
yourself before you can fix others. Kind of what does that look like? Think of an airplane, it's gone down and the little airbag comes in and you put the mask on. Well, before you help other people with their masks, you have to don your mask first.
Hmm.
So before you help other people fix their shit, you got to fix your shit first.
Yeah, yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, check your risk, check yourself before you wreck yourself. I
Yeah,
about
exactly.
I about
I
threw that
see.
out there. Yeah, that's a great point, man. We're all leading somebody, right? And it is when we think we're leading, it's like, or it's the right leadership, or it's the path that we want to lead path. No, you're leading everybody. You're leading by example in one direction or the other. You're leading them down a life of shame, guilt, regret, and just reckless actions, always being responsive to emotions, living off of emotions, or you lead them down the path of living a disciplined lifestyle. Are they giving into the emotions, or are they more often than not showing up as a disciplined person? Notice I say always,
Mhm.
right? not everybody, even David Goggins and even Jocko were like said, look, dude, nobody ever 100% of the time shows up as a disciplined person. But more often than not, we do strive to be that disciplined person where we don't give in to our emotions and show up the way we're supposed to do. But I got a question as we're talking more and more about this leadership aspect.
Mhm.
What's your opinion on this? Do you think neat leaders are naturally born? Do you think this is like an ingrained trait that somebody just either has, they don't? Is this an act? Is leadership the ability that can be grown? Is it something that could be, you know, what's the term I'm looking for here?
Like taught,
Not
kind of.
taught, but
Yeah,
cultivated, like going to the gym, like that muscle, right? Is
yeah.
it something they either have or they don't? What are your
I
thoughts on
think
that?
it's more. I think it's more cultivated.
Mm,
Uh, and honed and fined. Now, again, I can't speak from a civilian perspective,
mm-hmm,
but only from like the military side. So obviously, I made sergeant, leadership role. I went to the NCO Academy. There's, or they call it the Warrior Leadership Course now, where I was taught for, I think it's like 6 weeks, more
mm-hmm,
leadership traits that you can imply to yourself, to imply to your, or to deploy to your soldiers. So
mm-hmm,
I only say that because it's kind of like cultivated, you're taught, but then
mm-hmm.
again, you're given these tools, but you have to fine craft them to let it fit your own way and how it works for you. It's kind of like a weird analogy driving a car, I guess. I might drive slower than you. So I might, like the
If you're in
radio a
South
little bit.
Florida, that won't last long, bro.
Yeah. But you get the point. Like,
I do.
I
Yeah.
can give you something and you have to hone and fine it to the way it fits you, if that makes
No,
sense.
I.
And when you're
Yeah.
leading, lead to good standards, lead to great standards.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, don't be that person, don't be that leader or that boss that constantly half-asses stuff, whether it be
Mm,
in the office or in the
yeah.
warehouse or wherever, because whether you like it or not, people are always looking at you.
Oh, 100%.
And when I say kind of like lead to great standards, and don't let feelings come into play with it. That's kind of like standards over feelings, and feelings are actually standards and feelings are like the weather. So we have our seasons. Let's
Mm-hmm.
take our spring, summer, fall, winter as standards. Okay, we know what to expect in the spring and summertime. So feelings, kind of think of it as weather in the seasons. We might have a rain drought, summertime. We might have, a couple hot days in the wintertime. So those weather shifts are kind of like feelings. So don't let your feelings overplay your standards, and
Mm,
don't really give into it. And that goes with like a lot of business decisions too. Like someone comes to me with a great opportunity where I'm like, oh yeah, let's go, let's do it. That's a
mm-hmm.
feeling that I have. That's an emotional feeling. 2 or 3 years ago, I'm all up in my feelings. Yeah, I was like, all right, let's go, let's
Yeah,
rock and
for
roll.
sure.
But man, we just have to. I've learned to chill, to be patient, and it goes to back, to my favorite scripture, Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God.
Mm,
Like literally, you be still. You think about it. Yeah, whether you need to pray about it or talk it over with your family, just don't let feelings get in the way, because when you let feelings get in the way, especially from a business standpoint, because I've been there, you'll either get burned, you'll lose money.
mm.
Nothing really is going to good. Nothing really good is going to come out of it. So I always
Yeah,
say lead
I agree.
to great standards, and not your feelings, because your feelings want comfort. Your standards demand greatness. You
Yep.
have like, obviously, hold you to a standard. So
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I agree. And You're talking about feelings, wants comfort, that's because of our brain. Our brain's just wired for comfort, and that's
Mhm.
just one of the things our brains are wired for. We think it's a bad thing. We enter that zone of comfort. We enter that danger zone. Our palms are getting sweaty, heart rate's starting to get up there. We're starting to get a little sweaty, or maybe got a little bead of sweat rolling down the back of her leg,
Kind of
whatever,
like
right?
Eminem and 8 Mile.
Exactly, exactly. But that's all. That's called growth. That's 100%
Yeah,
normal because your brain is
yeah,
wired to keep you protected. See, anything outside of that norm, anything at all, it's going to wig out on you. And that's completely normal. All that is an indication to lean further in, keep growing, keep leaning in. One of the biggest principles that I've learned and continue to learn is accountability is the mirror, right? You can't lead yourself without honest feedback. Accountability is uncomfortable, right? But it's where growth happens. And one of the biggest things for me is, I've gotten to have people in my life who are willing, out of love, not out of hate, right? Because we go, Lord knows, we all have people in this world who want us fail, to see us fail. They want us to see us to crumble and so forth. No, we need to have people in our lives, that actually love and care about us to say, "Hey, Trevor, man, dude, you're better than that, man. Why didn't you wake up at 4 o'clock like you said like you promised to do to go to gym? That's not the version of Trevor that you promised to be, right? We need those kinds of people in my life. I've got people in my life that, man, if they don't hear from me in a day, they're like, hey, bro, did you do what you're supposed to do? Did you follow the commitments that you made to yourself? And it's like, right? It's either I did or I didn't, but they
yeah,
do this because they see more
yeah.
out of me, right? They see that I'm capable of more. They see that, I desire more, but that's where growth happens. We've gotten to this culture, man, we've gotten to this culture. This was talked about in our church, several months ago, where accountability has gotten uncomfortable and it's actually viewed as hate or as hurt, right? It's been viewed as, oh my gosh, you hurt me. Oh my gosh, you hate. No, 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 no. I didn't hurt you, right? I may have, you know, I didn't cause you hurt. I may have hurt you in a way that, it may have hurt your feelings, but I did it
Yeah,
from a place
sensitive
of,
feelings.
yes, right? But I did it from a place of love because I see more out of you. Like I want to see you operate at a higher capacity. I'm not trying to tear you down.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to bring you, to a lower place. No, I'm trying to inject love into you. I'm trying to speak life into you. I'm trying to speak love into you because I see 10 times more the person you are right now, right? But you're letting this backpack of all this stuff you've been carrying around for most of your life or all of your life, slow you down, right? But we've gotten to this culture where people are like, oh my gosh, you hurt my feelings because you hate me, or because, for whatever reason. Look, bro, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you grow, right? It's not hurt if I didn't physically hurt you, right? If I didn't physically inflict pain with you, right? If I didn't put you into an armbar or a foothold or what have you, and went a little deeper than I should have, or busted your lip because you pissed me off or whatever, right? But there's a difference between inflicting pain but in causing pain in such a way that causes you to grow. And too many times, man, people just got into this mindset like, oh my gosh, you hurt my feelings. I'm gonna do cancel culture. I'm gonna hate you now. And unfortunately, until that changes, that person is never gonna grow. That person is
Exactly.
never gonna be the person that God designed them to be. And that's painful,
A
right?
hundred
Not
percent.
not just
Hundred
for that
percent.
person, but for all of us.
Yeah. And they
But
just can't get it out of their minds. I mean, they're literally the only one that's holding them back is them
mhm, yeah,
themselves. And they've gotten to a place where they're just so comfortable. They're really comfortable to where you come out to them with an idea. Hey, you should do this. You should do that.
Yeah.
instead of this or that. And they're like, whoa, 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 hold on, Carl.
Mm-hmm.
I like where I'm at. So why did you say
Yeah.
that? I
Yeah.
don't like that at all. So that's
Yep.
kind of like the reason I used to coach e-commerce maybe a year or 2 years ago. And that's one of the reasons why I got out of there, because there was so much doubt in
Mm.
people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what the fuck are we here for? Do we want to build cute businesses out of our garage, or do
Mm-hmm.
we want to identify our competitor and literally wrap our hands around their neck?
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think we can do that? Well, look where you're talking. You're talking yourself out of it.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. 100%. One of the biggest things I talk about in the 5 day challenge, again, I'm going to put this out there. It all starts with the belief, and I get it. It is hard, right? But it really does start with the belief. I talked about this on day 2 of the 5 day unstoppable challenge. And by the way, shameless plug, if you have not yet, gotten into my program, the 5 day unstoppable challenge, it's right there. The link is right there. It's in the show notes. Jump into this challenge because, it really does start with the belief cycle. If you honestly believe something, take that first step in faith that it's going to happen, right? It all starts with belief. The belief starts with the emotion, which creates the trigger, which then creates the evidence or the action, which shows the evidence, right? Or the evidence. And the evidence either going to that evidence more than likely is going to sustain that belief, right? So if you're the type of person who is bad with finances and you're trying to make a change in your financial lifestyle, right? But you don't really believe deep down that you deserve that success, whatever that success is, that financial. It could be 10,000 in the bank, it could be a million in liquidity or whatever. But if you don't deep down believe that you deserve that, you're going to find some way to sabotage this. Ask me how I know,
Mhm.
right? But it all starts with belief, because when you deep down don't believe it, you are going to self sabotage. And guess what? The action and the result is just going to reinforce the belief, right? I know it sounds woo woo. I know it sounds foo foo, but I am living example of this, right? I literally came from a background where I had every flipping excuse possible to not succeed in my life. I had every excuse possible to not build multi-million dollar companies and then exit it and do what I do right now, right? I had every excuse in a book. I had every excuse possible to give up my health goals. Honestly, do you think I felt like showing up every single day, and do the things I've done to last over 130 pounds, right? No, but I believe deep down that I could. Ah, right? I flipping did it, and I still got more to go. I still got a long ways to go before I even consider my self successful. But it honestly really does boil down to belief. If you don't deep down feel that deserve this level of success, whatever it is that you want in life, then you are never going to get out of that cycle. It's not going to happen.
So,
But
Carl, let me ask you this.
hmm
How, like, I'm a listener right now, and my belief system is not really there. Is
mm,
there some, like, I don't know, little traits or tidbits that you can give me to kind of help me along the way? Like, I don't know, what little thing can I do, I guess, to build my confidence to have, a good self belief system, if that makes sense?
absolutely, absolutely, it makes perfect sense, and that's a great question, man. There's two things that anybody that's watching live or just listening replay or watching replay can do in your life. And one, it starts with this: start with one small thing that you could do every single day, right? Because when you start fulfilling the promises that you make to yourself, for example, hey, you know what, I'm going to read 10 pages every day of the Bible or some type of personal development book. When you consistently do it every single day, you're going to start feeling different about yourself, because guess what? You're building confidence in that you're fulfilling on the promises that you make to yourself. Sounds, it sounds, not logical, right? Sounds counterintuitive. It doesn't sound like, hey, you know, it, I don't know. I can't really, associate a phrase with this, but I know it's hard to believe. But start with that. Then, hey, you know what? I'm going to do a 30-minute walk every day. All right. Or do some type of physical exercise. If you're in South Florida right now, probably a 30-minute walk isn't going to be ideal for you. Or, anywhere here in the South right now. But, start with something small that you can do every single flipping day, whether you feel like it or not. And don't listen to that voice. And when you do that, you're going to build self-belief. And guess what? When you build that self-belief, then you're going to start getting the belief that you are capable of more, right? And you're just going to be able to position it and pivot it into a direction, right? Secondly, and this is probably the most profound one, you're kind of forcing me to give this away for free.
I didn't want to, but we need
No,
to
it's all
fill a
good.
question here.
No, this is good though. It all boils down to how we talk to ourselves. It honestly does. It honestly boils down to how we talk to ourselves. A lot of times we forget or we don't take into consideration that the things that we speak out loud, either internally into our minds or out loud about ourselves, and how much it influences how we show up, right? Either out of momentary frustration. I mean, dude, how many times have you done something and be like, oh man, I'm such a flipping idiot, right? Whether it's stubbing your toe or you made a stupid mistake on Amazon or your finances and your health, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid, or whatever, fill in a blank, right? But we've all made and made these acquisitions. One thing I observed very closely in working with some amazing people and being in some amazing rooms is they are very careful in how they talk, not just to other people, but more so to themselves, right? If you're the type of person that says, oh man, I'm such an idiot, flip the script. I am somebody who's learning every single day. Man, I am bad at finances. Hey, I'm getting better every day on my finances, right? Because every I am statement you're putting out into the universe, either speaking it so your ears hear it, or thinking it, or thinking it into your thoughts, you are further coveting. You're making that covenant even more planted into your brain of whatever that belief that you hold about yourself. If you believe you're an idiot, then you're going to be an idiot, right? But if you believe you're capable of changing your life, if you believe that you can actually do more in your life, and guess what? You're going to be able to do it, right? If you speak, this is why it's so flipping important. I know it sounds woo-woo, all this kind of foo-foo, but if you speak these things, I mean, gosh, look in the Bible, the oldest book on the freaking planet. Yeah. What does God say, right? When Moses said, who do I say sent me? Right? Moses, my dude, man. I love Moses, because this dude had a speech impediment. He didn't feel qualified to do the things he's done in an entire life, right? But when you look at what he's accomplished, he's looking at his burning brush that doesn't seem to go away, right? It's just a burning brush. It's not going anywhere. It's not consuming anything. It's just like this burning orange ball. First off, I'd be like, later, Trevor, I'm out. Peace, right? But he stood there because he was like compelled. But he's like, all right, so you tell him, I don't feel qualified, blah, 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 right? Get past that. And he says, hey, who do I say sent me? I am who I am. That is, I don't really think we understand the power and significance of that I am that we have in that statement. A lot of us just dismiss the power of it because it's so universal, right? We don't think it has any power. So, practical tool, and this is something that we talk exclusively on day 1 and day 2 of the 5-day unstoppable challenge. You're trying to get me to pitch again. I got you. I see where you're going with this.
I feel so obligated. I got to sign up now.
But this is something we talk exclusively on day 1 about, and the power of these I am statements. Get a simple note card, right? Or a piece of paper first off, and audit. What are the things that you say about yourself as you progress through the day, right? Then ask yourself, man, would you say that to your daughter? Would you say that to your son? Would you say that to your wife, the loved ones you have in your life? I would be inclined to say no, right? But yet we do it to ourselves. Like we are the harshest people to our own selves. But yet, we can't. This is one of the biggest attributes to leadership, is having that belief that you can do more, that you can grow. because leadership is not like naturally installed into people. Some people do have the innate ability to be better, but everybody has to work at being a better leader, right? And so you're not going to be naturally gifted out of the box to be this amazing leader out of the box. It takes work, right? It's a muscle you've got to build every day in the gym, right? It's no different than going to the literal gym. You go to the gym to build muscle, and for me to be like Trevor and be massive and be this amazingly dude, right? It's no different. You got to do the exact same thing with your leadership skills, but it all boils down. So once you've done this audit, circle the highest impact ones, or so circle the ones you've said most about yourself. I'm an idiot. I'm not good at my finances. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. Whatever those things are, right? Then flip the script. I do deserve X, Y, and Z, right? I am a person who's learning and growing every single day. I'm getting better at my finances. I am courageous. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. I'm a champion. Whatever those things are, right? This is why you see MMA fighters. This is why you see, professional athletes chant this stuff out loud. I'm a warrior. I'm a champion. They're not saying it in a sense of being arrogant. They're saying it because they're clearing it, being true. They're saying into the brains, hey, I am a champion. I am a warrior. Now I'm just going to show up and collect what's already mine. And you've got to do that in your own life, right? We've all got to do this in our own life. We've got to declare, hey, I am courageous. I am working every day to be courageous. I am working every day to be faithful. I am working every day to be better in my finances, to be more healthier. But until we flip that script, we're going to get caught in this belief cycle over and over and over. This is so paramount, my friends. And guys, please, if you didn't take anything from this call, and Trevor, you can thank Trevor for like giving you like the first quarter of what my first, my 5-day unstoppable challenge is about, is essentially this portion. Every entrepreneur I've ever worked with, every founder I've worked with, has had that you know, commonality. I will say it that way. Is about
So
what they believe.
Hence, it really starts with yourself before you can pour into other people. Yeah, that's what I got out of that.
No.
Yeah, because I don't care if you you have an e-commerce business, you're a realtor, or hell, even a 9-to-5 employee. And goes back to what I said: to fix others, you have to fix yourself. Be the best version of yourself. And I'm
100%.
really surprised that you didn't talk about what we talked about in the mastermind last week was a vision board. Not only do you speak it, but you see it as well. Like I'm sure when Karl did his, he was, he had a Lambo on each foot and he had a big ass mansion in the back, riding off in somewhere in the Bahamas. That's his vision board.
First off, we've been over this. I can't fit in the freaking thing.
Now you can. But
Maybe.
it goes not only speaking it, but seeing it as well. And
100%.
everybody's different. Everybody has different goals. Maybe you just want to, start that side hustle, and that side hustle be eventually your full-time income to where you can be with your family more. So essentially, we're just buying time. You want to, take more vacations, buy a Lambo, or buy a nicer car, buy a nicer house, or whatever, or just essentially just be there for your kids.
Yeah,
And
100%.
like I said, everybody's different, but not only speaking it, but seeing it as well. And they do this a lot at my old academy as well in the kids class. They have vision boards, and all the kids, they make a vision board. So they'll get up, they'll talk about it, what they want to be, and we'll hang them up around the studio. So same thing, vision board. So
Yeah.
speak it, see it, do it.
Yeah, that's right. We could probably speak on vision board next week and give them a little glimpse, of what we talked about in our premium mastermind in terms of you know vision boards using AI to kind of like pour gas on the fire and so forth. So, but we've got about 5 minutes left. Man, this time has absolutely flown. And one of the things we weren't able to do this last week because we just got into a flow, and by time before we realized it was already top of the hour, right? But I do want to offer an opportunity for people to email us questions, right? Like, Karl, man, I'm just struggling with this. It could be your business, it could be finances, or whatever, right? Let me maybe preface: I'm not a health coach. I'm not a counselor, or a therapist, or a marriage counselor, or a marriage therapist, whatever,
I'll get
right?
those questions. No.
But email your questions, anything of that nature, to email in, in the screen, Karl at successwithkarl.com. If you're navigating some type of obstacle, hardship, adversity, and you just need some, like, Karl, man, I just need some advice, or I just need your 2 cents, right? We'll answer it here live, so that not only do we get to answer your question, but everybody else gets the benefit to hearing it. Now, of course, if you want to be anonymous, happy to say, hey, a listener, or somebody watched had this question, right? But I do want to afford the opportunity for people to be able to ask these questions, because I get it, right? We hear all these different things, we see all these different things, but man, we still get stuck. We don't know where to go to ask questions and so forth, right? But please, if you send us a question, don't be the asshole, right? When I say don't be the asshole, there are some people in my life that do this, and it breaks my heart and it pisses me off. But don't be the type of person that's constantly asked questions like, "Oh, how did you do this? How are you able to do this and do that? And how are you able to do that?" Right? And I give them advice of how to do it, and they don't freaking do it. That's the asshole, my friend. Do not, and I repeat, do not be the asshole.
I think every
Because,
successful entrepreneur has ask calls in their life,
mm,
because I used to get them daily. Now I get them weekly. Now I get them monthly. But I think you'll never escape that. Being not only a successful entrepreneur but a successful individual.
yeah,
Whatever you do. So, but
yeah,
it
100%.
just goes back to people. Comfortable. Once you tell them what you did, i.e., the process, because no one
Mm-hmm.
loves the process. We love the end goal, the level 8 of Mario Brothers. We want to go right to Bowser. Okay, we
Oh,
don't
you're a
want
Mario guy, huh?
yeah, we don't want the Koopa Troopas. We don't want all that shit. We want to go straight to Bowser. They don't want to hear that.
No, they
Nor do
don't.
they want. Well, that's what they want to hear, but they don't want to do that. So a
No.
lot of
Mm-mm.
people don't love the process.
No.
Hence, okay, oh, let me just go back to being comfortable.
Yep. Yep. 100%. All right. So I'll post like one or two questions. We only got 2 minutes left, but we do have to sign off because, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, I do have other things after this. As much as I love this, to sit here for an hour, or actually 2 or 3 hours, and just have fun. And guys, if you're having fun, if you're getting value out of this, if you're getting something, please put in the comments. Right, drop a comment. What is a takeaway you're getting from this? What is a ha ha moment? Whatever that takeaway is. If you love this, put some type of fire emoji, put something in the chat or in the comment section, because this helps us understand and know that you're getting value from this, you're getting impact from this, and please share it with a friend. Right? Don't hold it amongst yourself. Don't hold this. This isn't about me, Trevor, or even you. Right? This
Mhm.
isn't to inspire as many Trevors, as many Bretts, as many Ryans, Matts, all the people in this world, because quite frankly, in this world, we need this impact. So that being said, I'll post like one question, because we're starting to get to the end of this. So he says, all right, so Brendan, um, you know, he says, Karl, I feel like I'm constantly starting strong, but never finishing what I begin. I'll get fired up for a few days, then lose steam. How do I stay consistent when that initial excitement disappears? I will tell
Goes back
you.
to
Hmm?
Yeah, it goes back to what I talked about last week is motivation and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're motivated at it, at the beginning. Yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Then it just slowly dies off. But unfortunately, whatever you do, gym, business, personal life, you have to be consistent at it. Are there going to be days that you don't want to do it? Absolutely. But
Yeah.
that's when true growth comes, when you don't want to do it and you literally force yourself up. and do it.
Yep.
Mel Robbins did it. She was an alcoholic, going through a divorce. She just, okay, I'm going to win the day by getting out of bed. I don't want to get out of bed, but I got out of bed. So that was her consistent factor.
Yeah, 100%. You really, the thing is just start with one small, simple thing. Unfortunately, too many people attack it from the intensity aspect. Oh man, I'm going to do 5 or 6 things, right? So many people start to 75 hard, right? And don't get me wrong, Andy created an amazing program. I've done it. I know numerous people in my circle have done it and changed their lives dramatically. But unfortunately, too many people start it and they don't complete it. And what happens? It gets them right back into that bleed cycle I talked about earlier. Don't try to go into a program like 75 Hard if you've never done anything like that and thinking, all right, this is going to be it. No, dude, just start by reading 10 pages every day. Just start by doing one simple thing and build upon that. If it takes you 90 days just to get, to build on that, you made more progress in that 90-day period than you would have a year hitting there with, small intensity here and there, right? So attack it from that angle. So, all right, my friends, listen again. There's a couple of more questions, but we are getting to the end of our time. Again, if you have questions, you need advice, you just need you need some advice from Trevor or myself or whatever. Email those questions to me. Happy to answer them live. Karl@successwithkarl.com. And one last time, if you want to check out this 5-day unstoppable challenge, the 5-day live experience with yours truly, this dude right here, you're going to spend at least 1 hour with me live every day. There's a VIP option to spend 2 hours with me, 1 hour before the general admission. And there's not been one person that has walked away from that wasn't like just blown away. Every single person walked away from there blown away with a tangible thing they can walk away with and know from day one they can execute with. How would that make you feel if you were able to walk away from a program knowing that you've got the tools to walk away with, the same tools I use, the same tools all my clients use to attack life every single day and become unstoppable? How would that make your life? How would that make your life different, right? My guys, that's it. That's the wrap. Remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't lose any upcoming releases. I'm going to have more YouTube content coming up, so hit that notification. Thanks so much for showing up. And again, please drop in the comments. What were some of your takeaways? What did you like about this? What do you want to see differently in our content that we're doing? Because if we hear back from you, this confirms that you're liking the content. We're going to do more of it, and we're going to keep showing up every Monday, whether we feel like it or not, whether we've gotten the espresso shot that we want or not. We're still going to show up because we hear from you, right? This is all about you, serving you, and giving the most impact we possibly can. So with that, be blessed, be unstoppable. See you guys next Monday at 2 p.m. Take care, guys. Be safe.